In this, the second of our series, The Successful Home Improvement Customer, we want to work through the process from your vision to finished project so that you know what happens, who takes responsibility for what, and the most effective way for the players to interact. We start that discussion by identifying who those players are. There may be more of them than you expected, but depending on the nature of your renovation, not all of them may be required. There are also people involved that you don't engage yourself. Even so, it's important for you to know the role they play. Not surprisingly, it starts with you. Even that term might need some definition because if you recall from the first installment of this series, one of your key obligations to the project is to speak as a single customer. When we say you, we mean collectively, any stakeholders in your family or partners in the property. There is only one box on this chart for you. If there are multiple people with a vote in the project, find a way for your debates and trade-offs to happen offline, and for your shared resolution to be presented to the build team as a well-defined set of objectives. This is not to say that all your thinking and choosing and trade-offs have to happen before consulting with your team. By all means, bring ideas to your design team and get their input, but make some effort to filter the range of options you lay on the table, and don't look to others to referee your own debates. This slide is intended to spell out the responsibilities of the various parties who contribute to your project. So before we leave the subject of you, let us reinforce a couple of points that fall under your obligations to getting the end result you want. During the design phase and as the build progresses, respect deadlines that fall on you. Most of these involve open decisions on materials or finishes, but you may have assumed some of the work yourself. Make sure you deliver on this according to the schedule and make sure your phase of the work accommodates the work that others must do. When it comes to physical work you perform on the project, in that capacity you are not the customer, you are part of the crew, and you have all the same obligations as other members of the crew. If you have an agreed payment schedule, the progress of your project depends on those payments. Funds will very quickly be devoted to obligations to pay sub-trades, staff, or suppliers. If you are late with payments, then everyone on the project will feel the impact very quickly. When that occurs, instead of concentrating on your project, people get apprehensive about what might happen next. We put a lot of the onus on you up to now. The truth is that getting off on the right foot really does depend on you, but we'll get a little easier on you now as we look deeper into what the professionals contribute to your project. Not every project demands professional design services, but if you are extending the footprint or changing the structural framework of the building, you probably do. An architect contributes to your success on two fronts that can actually seem like pretty distant skill sets. Their creative side is there to help translate your description of what you need and want into an image that details how your home can achieve your wishes. Their technical side then takes that image, your design in other words, and details a set of instructions on how that is to be built correctly, safely, and legally. Those technical requirements may call for the services of an engineer. This individual will know building codes, how building materials perform, and how the structural, mechanical, and electrical elements of a building must be incorporated. The designer works with you to arrive at what you want to build. They then work with the engineer to arrive at how it must be built. Turning vision into a set of building instructions is one of those steps we referred to in our first presentation, where there is a certain amount of circling back. Technical demands might alter the original vision and call for alterations until the result is both satisfying to you and safe to build. That process becomes more direct and efficient between designers and engineers who know each other's methods, and so you will often find that both services are delivered through one office. Next in our chart is your builder or general contractor. When you engage a general contractor, that company will coordinate all the activities involved with turning the drawings from your architect into the building you envision. Over and above that, they need to manage some complex regulatory demands for staying on the right side of the law. They need to do all of that according to a schedule and a budget that you both must agree to in advance of work proceeding. Your builder is covering a lot of bases for you, and the bulk of your overall project budget is going to flow through them. In fact, there's so much at stake here that we will come back to the role of your builder in your selection process in a segment of this series all its own. Your first contact and your initial relationship with your builder might be with the company owner. Don't be offended if once your project starts, you are presented with a project manager as your primary contact. Given a choice between the full attention of a capable employee or the intermittent attention of the company owner who by necessity is drawn into things beyond your project, we think you're better off with a dedicated project manager. Get to know them and treat them as your ally. The next professionals to join the project sequence will be the Municipal Building Permit and Inspection Office. You don't employ them, and you really don't get to choose what individuals work with you, which may be one reason they are too often viewed as an opponent. That perspective is mostly wrong, although we can't deny that friction can arise. Inspectors have the unenviable job of drawing the line when projects push the envelope of size and scale, or when chosen building techniques get too radical. In fact, it will most often be your architect or your builder who will work through the permit process, but you should make an effort to be part of the dialogue. Getting your permit will not be the last you see of the permitting office. Depending on the scope of your project, you can expect a number of on-site inspections. The purpose of these is to make sure that the construction meets code and the building is going forward according to the approved and permitted drawings. It isn't uncommon for people to view these inspections as obstructions, but you are better off to have construction that meets code in all respects than compliance only where it is convenient. In other words, you want these inspections to happen. While we're on the subject, let's address one other misconception. There are those who might suggest that the permit process can be bypassed, that you can either get the work done before an inspector has an opportunity to object, or do things that are out of sight where no one will be any the wiser. Those games might be to the advantage of people working on the job, but they aren't going to benefit you. Moreover, many cities now maintain online registries of building permits, where anyone with a concern can make their own inquiry into the status of your building permit. If your project involves changing structural walls, electrical, plumbing, or heating systems, insist on permitted work. Without a signed-off permit, you may have trouble insuring your property adequately, and when it comes time to sell, potential buyers may devalue the property for work that hasn't been properly documented or approved. Either way, you assume the risk as the homeowner for shortcuts that don't deliver very much benefit to you. Finally, we come to a contributor that not everyone employs. Not all projects will warrant it, or you might be perfectly comfortable making your own decisions. At times, however, a formal relationship with an interior designer will be a very influential element of the project. We have listed the function at the end of our chart, but don't equate that with simply decorating a finished building. Interior design choices can put fundamental demands on the layout and the structure of a building. Making those choices after the more technical design is locked down, or even after construction is underway, can lead to disappointment when good ideas can't be incorporated into the structure that's being built. Alternatively, that timing can add significantly to costs and timelines as building structure is reworked to adapt to interior design decisions.